let us know for last thoughts, our listeners live and on podcast.
All right, we know that I do joke quite often about my attempted escapes from the psych ward, but in all seriousness, psych ward gang is seriously my idea of representing the military. Representing mental health in the military community. So if you happen to run into any type of mental health crisis or emergency, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial 988, press option 1. Again, just as I had to do when I was in a moment of crisis, do not be ashamed nor afraid to dial the digits 988, then press option 1 if you find yourself in a similar mental health crisis. All right, let's get the show started. Everyone, welcome to episode 118 of the WarDawg Trail podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant WarDawg, and with me,
Rim 0311. What's going on?
I'm all right, man. We're Monday afternoon chilling over here. We got a serious reunion for you going down. We got a reunion of 3 Marines that all served 3 tours in Iraq together. And we're not just any Marines. We're talking infantry Marines, those that were on the ground and went after it and asked to be in the dangerous shit. All right. Well, before we bring our guest on, let's go over some announcements for today. All right, to start us off, you can always visit our website, sergeantwardawgtv.com, as well as the Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram page, Sergeant WarDawg TV. All right, my book, the exact same name as this podcast, The WarDawg Trail, A Marine Rifleman's Struggle with War and PTSD, is now available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Walmart, Books A Million, and many other stores that keep popping up around the country. All right. Our nonprofit, Camp Doghouse, located in Central Florida, can now be found at campdoghouse.org. All right. We've owned the land in Central Florida for about 5 years now, but we're looking to bring housing, bring RVs, bring some campers out so we can house 5 to 10 homeless veterans in the Central Florida area. So be sure to check us out at campdoghouse.org to find out what we're going to do to the homeless issue in Central Florida. All right, we are brand ambassadors for Reaper Apparel Co. So you can use off your entire order. We are also brand ambassadors for Hyperion Munitions. So when you hear us bringing up products from companies like T6 Firearms, Oriskany Arms, Veteran Ammo, or their Precise Trigger Control, which is a phenomenal trigger that they've created. That is all because we are ambassadors for Hyperion Munitions. All right, last year we won several awards from Corporate Livewire. We won Veteran Support Nonprofit of the Year for 2023 and 2024. Already this year, for 2024, we've won from Global Health and Pharma as a part of the Mental Health Awards 2024. We won Best Veteran Mental Health Awareness Network for 2024. Also, from Acquisition International Magazine in the UK, we won Veteran Welfare Outreach Nonprofit of the Year for 2024. All right, remember, every Saturday night, you can find me on DV Radio, that's Dysfunctional Veterans Radio, at dvradio.net, where I'm a host with other members from other branches, where we have the Barracks Talk podcast, where we talk about issues and veterans issues, and we have dark humor, just like we had back in the barracks as a part of the Barracks Talk podcast. All right, these are the outlets that you can find the audio podcast on, as well as the video podcast. All right, now today's guest qualifies as what we call a military baller. So be sure to always tune in to the Military Baller segment of the WarDawg Trail podcast, in which we highlight unsung heroes who've made dope contributions and sacrifices and need to be recognized as a part of our Military Ballers segment. This is the WarDawg Trail podcast. I'm your host, Sergeant WarDawg. And again, we are joined by Grim 0311, our Marine / law enforcement / executive protection specialist. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we welcome to the stage Gabe Keith, Marine Infantry war veteran, as well as an author. Gabe, welcome to the show, boss.
Hey, thanks for having me. That's an incredible intro. I really appreciate it. Very humbling.
Oh, boss, only the best for the best, man. Only the best for the best, bro. Now, if you don't mind, right off the bat, let everyone know about your military background.
Yeah, so I served in the Marine Corps Infantry from 02 to 06 and got out after that. I was with 3-4 Lima Company and was an 0331, a machine gunner. Served with, of course, Henderson here, and then yourself as well, who was in Kilo. And yeah, definitely.
Right on, bro. Right. Now, not many know the history that we have together. Not many know that all three of us were there for the very first day of the Iraq War. Then we returned again in 04, and then we all returned again in 05. Not many people know what it's like to walk in those shoes, to carry that weight, to be in that desert heat, to deal with the enemy that we dealt with. But I'm proud to say that all three of us are here to have this type of reunion once again, man. Thank you for joining us.
It's an honor, man. It really is. Thanks for setting this up. I noticed you guys, you talk a lot about mental health, and courageous. You don't really hear that as much in the veteran. You don't always hear that in the veteran community.
Yeah, bro, we had to, because I'm open and honest about it now. After years of being ashamed, I'm now open enough to tell you I had to be hospitalized 5 separate times after all our tours in Iraq. I just couldn't get over either being homicidal or suicidal. I just couldn't get my balance together until I started with, the proper medications, therapy, even medical marijuana, and then even hunting. I picked up hunting hard, man, and camping again so I could feel like a grunt again, bro. So yeah, we pay a lot of attention to, mental health and what's going on with, veterans around the world as far as where their heads are.
That's incredible. Yeah, I did. I actually went to the psych ward twice. I felt like it's kind of, I heard someone describe it as, you carry everything as much as you can until you can't anymore. And then you have to find the way forward and acknowledging what you're dealing with, come to terms with it. Definitely is the way to go. It's good. I feel pretty good these days, but it's definitely was a journey for sure.
Now, matter of fact, now that I'm in front of 2, 3, 4 Marines, I want to admit, when I was going through my issues like that, I was ashamed for another 3, 4 Marine to see me. I got to admit that. I thought no other Marine had any issues or, was fine or thought about anything twice. I got to admit, in front of you two guys now, years ago, bro, I would have never admitted that in front of some 3, 4 guys. I got to admit, that's part of my evolution.
Wow.
It happens, man. It happens. There's so many out there, that struggle. You start to hear about it now, years later, man. It's been almost 20 years since we all got out, around the same time, about 2006, and man, a lot of people have went through a lot of different stuff, and they've learned, just through trial and error, how to deal with it.
Right
Yeah,
on.
that's a good point. I mean, I think it's interesting. I just visited someone, Joe Kutsera from, I think he was second platoon. I did a tour with him, and and it was just surreal. It's just surreal even hearing you guys talk now. It's like we were by ourselves, but we were going through the same thing.
Right.
It's crazy how relatable. Even in just your intro and the few things you've both already said, I just relate so heavily to it. Almost a surreal nature. It kind of puts another layer of why we're a brotherhood. It's not just we serve together. It's we also suffer together. We also almost grew up in a family together and have the same highs and lows from it.
Right
Right,
on,
right.
bro. Right on. Hey, let's not forget now, we also used to whoop ass together. We also, people might have, they might forget that about us, but we were all tactically dope and proficient, man, and well trained in 3-4, bro. Nobody knows how well, our leadership trained us out there in the desert like that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, it's funny because you don't even realize it in the moment, but it's like, man, we were the largest live fire base in the world, throwing live rounds down range constantly. I had I'd group talking recently, some civilians about how when if you kill like how, not to get into politics or anything, but like if you kill people in another country, you just motivate their family to want to go to war. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think we inspired people to want to fight us. From what I remember, I remember us going pretty hard to the pain, not to justify war or to speak against it, but just to be like, yeah, we were aggressive.
Oh, yeah. But it goes back, it goes back to some of the models, some of the things we live by. Talk, no better friend, no worse enemy. We went out there as professionals. We didn't go out there, doing crazy nonsense. Even though, there was saying, there was some, because there's always going to be some in any profession that's going to be doing crazy nonsense, But we truly went out there as professionals, and we lived by that, very strongly. No better friend, no worse enemy. We went out there. We tried to be respectful to everybody. We showed them. We gave when we can on patrols. But hey, we went at it hard. Hey, we on patrol and we started taking fire. Hey, like gloves came off. Towards the individuals who hey man, they acted first. We reacted and we did what we had to do. So yeah, definitely, with that, a lot of people learned. Anybody that was motivated, to kill from that, were the ones who were doing it anyway. That's they insurgents, terrorists. They were out there doing it anyway. They were already motivated. We ain't motivate them anymore, any less. Or maybe less in some sense.
Right on. Now, Gabe, do you mind letting us know right off the bat why you chose the Marine Corps and why the infantry, bro? Why choose to be a grunt?
Yeah, I think for me it's hard to nail down because we were so young when we made those decisions. Signed up when I was 17. But I think for me, I grew up reading a lot of. I grew up with a strong sense of morality, and I grew up with a strong sense of what I wanted to aspire to. And when I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy novels, and I always kind of wanted to know what it was like to be a warrior. And I think when the Marine Corps became an opportunity, because you're getting out of high school, I looked at it as a way to, if I was ever going to have that experience, that would be the way to go. And I didn't want to just not to throw shade on any other occupation in the military. But I thought, you know what, if I can't be something that's like on the intelligence side, or I can't be something that's really high level, I would, before going into, the being a truck driver or something, I would want to I'd want to experience what it was like to actually be on the ground, you know.
Yeah, that's what's up, bro. Exactly, man. Exactly. Good deal. If you don't mind, let us know where are you from and where'd you end up going? Like for instance, I'm never let you guys know. I'm from Florida, so I should have ended up at Lejeune, man. But my whole SOI class got shipped from the East Coast over to 29 Palms. So where are you from and where'd you go to boot camp, bro?
Yeah, so I went to MCRD in San Diego. I grew up in St. Paul and Minneapolis. And yeah, I pretty much went there, and then they let us know. Didn't they let us know on Monday? Was it Friday or Monday? I remember there was a reason they wouldn't let you know. They didn't want you to run away. They wanted to tell you, hey, right before they sent you. I think they do that.
Right. I'm surprised. Hey, either people was wanting to go to, man, everyone to go to San Diego or Paris Island or wherever else. The last thing anybody wanted to go was 29 Palms, man.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, Gabe, you're one of the few people that we can talk to this about or speak to about that was actually there, that has the knowledge. Let us know what you remember about the very first day of the Iraq War, bro. Take us back.
First day. So we had staged and practiced on boarding those AAVs on the line of departure for about a month. And I feel like there was a lot of tension because we didn't know what we were going to be facing. And I remember distinctly, the memory I have is throwing our packs up on the side of the tracks, jumping in, filing in, we're facing each other. We're like 2 feet away from the guy in front of us, just crammed in on the bench. And I remember that Army Humvee playing Let the Bodies Hit the Floor. And everyone slamming their rifles on the ground and staring wide-eyed across at each other like this is happening.
Yeah, that's real shit right there, bro.
Yeah,
good deal.
Crazy thing was too, in boot camp I had this this gentleman who, Gunny Blue, this awesome senior drill instructor. He ended up becoming a first sergeant and transferred to our unit for our last deployment. But in boot camp, he was my senior DI. And I remember he came into the squad bay and he commanded us all to attention or whatever, and announced that the lead singer of Drowning Pool had died and how terrible of a day it was. And then had went into his room and you could hear him playing Drowning Pool. And then to have that song blaring through the speakers as we were crossing, that was a crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. He was a crazy dude, man. He was one of my DIs as well, man. He wasn't a senior at the time. That was right before he took senior.
Oh, that's incredible, man. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, he was wild. Yeah, it was crazy when I saw him. Hey, just hearing his voice, man. When I first heard his voice, man, I just wanted to snap to attention. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh hell no, don't tell me.
Good deal. And let me know, do you guys ever, if nothing else, you remember the sound of a ramp coming down, the ramp making the little noises when the door is about to open, and then the ramp coming down? Does that always stand out? The ramp from the AAVs, does that stand out for you guys at all?
Oh yeah. For sure. I think about, like, I have some core memories of just watching the daylight start to occur, and just, all the worst nightmares and all your hopes and dreams, everything is in the moment of what you're going to see when that thing drops, for sure.
Right. Oh yeah. That was go time right there, man. It was go time. You getting ready, and it was like, yo, hey, when this door hit the ground, we need to get the fuck away from this. We get the hell away from this train. Hey. Oh man.
Yeah, I love how no matter what, guys would snap to and wake up. No matter if they were asleep, if they had been pissing in a bottle, if they were on air security, guys was once you hear that door, you know, and the clink clink and whatnot, and you hear everyone yelling ramp coming down, it was amazing where you would just wake up and be at and just have to pick up and, you know, pick up and go, you know. I mean, shit, that was the nature of the beast, right? Right on.
Oh yeah.
Now, Gabe, do you mind talking to us about the second tour? When we started off in Okinawa, Japan, but actually ended up getting our hands dirty again.
Yeah, so in the second tour, where everyone went into Fallujah, my platoon got pulled to do like QRF missions from a base, and I remember a lot of hostility from the other platoons, all justifiable, because they would be out. One platoon was out in the middle of the desert, the other one was surrounding Fallujah, and they would come back looking just worn and ragged, and they would open the door to. I remember Wilson from weapons platoon. He opens the door. I feel light coming in. I'm sleeping. I'm passed out for like 10 hours, and I open my eyes and I pull my head out of the blanket. We have it like an ice box in there, just the AC running, and I see Caleb Wilson just dirty and just pissed, and he's just looking at us in disgust. Pulling the blankets back up over my head and just hoping he didn't. And but we had some rough missions. I will say it was kind of a mix. So we had to do convoy security and go across take convoys past the Haditha Dam, and we had to do we'd be in 53s or 46s and do some air security. We actually
vehicle interdictions. Yeah, we did a lot of those.
Oh yeah, and I remember once we were flying a night mission, and I think we were supposed to be on the Iraq side of the Syrian border, but we actually went over the Syrian border and we started taking RPG and small arms fire.
Oh yeah, that was memorable. Yeah, that was our actual last mission. We wasn't even supposed to be on that one. Yeah, because I was squad leader for that.
Crazy.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we wasn't even supposed to head out. I think we actually turned in gear at that point right before, and then it was like, yo, we need to get our gear back.
Wow, what do you remember of that deployment from that?
Man, from that particular one, man, I just remember like, yo, you know, it's the last one. I was like, yo, fuck it, hey, you know, one last one before we head home. Cool, you know, go up in there, and you know, I'm sitting in the back, got the helmet on and stuff, you know, listening to the, you know, with the mic from the cockpit, you know, so they can let us know, like, yo, you know, 5 minutes out, you know, we about to hit the ground. Man, they come back there shaking me. They were like, yo, hey, fuck, hey, get up, you know, we're taking fire. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck going on? I wake up and, hey, man, I look around, I see the guys, you know, they looking through the windows and shit. So I'm just sitting down, holding on to shit. And, you know, I get up, you know, I look out the window, man, you see shit everywhere, man. It was crazy. It was like the 4th of July outside.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. And man, I sat back down and I said, cool, wake me up, we hit the ground. They looked at me like, what the fuck? I was like, there ain't shit we can do in there. I'm like, hit me up when we hit the ground. You know, we get everything, you know.
You remember Williamson, my gunner at the time? He started low crawling to the back of the helo, and it was bucking and rolling, and I had to unbuckle, run and grab him and get him back strapped up. Like, you're not shooting out the back of a rolling helicopter, you know? And
oh yeah, that was crazy. I mean, because 1 second, yeah, man, you're looking at the dark sky, you know, with daggone light tracers and type shit, you know, going by, and the next thing you know, dude, you looking at the fucking ground. It's like, but dude, they were fucking moving. They were fucking moving, man. They was fucking dodging shit. That shit was moving. I ain't realized them things can move like that.
Yeah, the co-pilots were giving commands to the other, because there was 2 helos, and each helo couldn't see the fire coming at them. So their co-pilots were watching the other helo and giving commands, and then those pilots were bucking and rolling based on the other helo's directions. So they were hit by watching out for each other. And then they had 50 gunners, 50 caliber gunners, I believe, on both sides of the open doors, and they would be standing with both feet over the opening, or they would be hanging, depending on if it was bucking or rolling. And I'll never forget the way the RPG hissed and lit up the cabin. with light. Those are the moments where you're like, if that shit hits,
Yeah,
is that,
yeah.
you know,
It was crazy. It was crazy, man. You know, to think about, like, damn, you know, we wasn't even supposed to be doing this shit right now.
yeah.
But hey, you know, hey man, it was how it went. You know, it was whatever. You know, we made it back down. We still here, so
Yeah.
We can laugh about it now.
Yeah. There is some
All right.
I remember, but yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro. This is the place to talk. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, there was just one other situation that really stood out to me where we were providing security for an army convoy that was like supply oriented. And we were I remember Gates was the other team leader, and me and Gates and our teams were the forward observers. So we punched forward when we saw these two hills, because we thought, well, that could be a good ambush point. Let's push forward and check it out. And we get this we drive forward, and the army convoy, we didn't realize after a minute had stopped. We get forward, and there's these two mounds, and so we looked, and there was the hills on both sides didn't have any insurgents, so there was no ambush. And so we just observed the side of the road to see if anything had been buried. Well, there was two suspicious looking mounds next to each other, and Gates goes, kick it and make sure it's good so we can get moving. I'm like, I'm not going to kick it. He's like, have one of your guys kick it. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to have one of my guys kick it. And he's like, it's not like that, man. I'm not telling you to put anyone in danger. I'll kick it. I'm like, no, I don't want you to kick it. I don't want you kicking it. I don't want me kicking it. So he goes over and he kicks it a couple times. Nothing happened. So we're like, because at that point, then he wanted me to know that it wasn't like he was trying to put anyone in danger. He'll do it himself. This is what he would do. And so kicks it. And then, that kind of ended. There was nothing going on. And then we look back, we see the army convoy had stopped. We radio back to them. We find out the vehicle behind us had been hit by an IED, and our driver had driven over the pothole where they had driven into the pothole and blew off a door from one of those armored Humvees or armored tankers it was. And the scary thing was as the team lead, I had my 240 gunner in like a turret above the cab, and then I had my ammo man in the back. We had a 7-ton, and I was standing over open space with one foot on the cab, my rifle up on the back of the cab, and my other foot on the back of the 7-ton, and with open ground moving beneath us. And I don't think that's what a lot of people know about with our deployments, was how little protection we had against IEDs.
Yeah, right on, bro. No one understands that. Seriously. If you don't mind, I always wanted to be able to ask other 3-4 guys, how do you truly feel about the fact that we earned the PUC, Presidential Unit Citation, for all we did? Did it make you feel good or what?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all these years later, to think about it, to know that out of all the units there, for what we did in OIF1, we all earned the PUC, right? Right on.
Yeah. Good point. It's surreal talking to people that were there with it.
Yeah. Now, for the first time on this show, I want to bring up the fact that I used to live in the barracks right next door to Medal of Honor recipient Corporal James Dunham. All right. Do you guys remember Dunham at all? Have you heard of Dunham's story?
I don't think.
I remember the name.
All right. Dunham was with 3-4 Kilo, but I can't remember if you guys remember a lot of guys that transferred in from like security forces or whatnot. They all wanted to extend so that they could go to Iraq at least once. You remember that?
Mm.
All right, so he was one of the ones that extended and ended up going from us in 3-4 to over to 2-7. Now, when he was in 2-7 and we were out near, Haditha, everything you mentioned, Gabe, they were somewhere near the Syrian border, and he ended up chasing a kid that had a grenade. And rather than lose his entire fire team, he jumped on the boy and the grenade and took the brunt of the explosion. Wow. And for that, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. So it is completely surreal. Everything that you were saying, Gabe, had reminded me of how surreal everything about our lives are. So it hit me even more that I would look into their eyes. I mean, how do you know the guy next door is going to do something that honorable and that selfless and end up winning the Medal of Honor? How do you know that the guy that's telling you to clean the catwalk or who's being your NCO, your salt dog, how do you know he's going to end up being, the one
that
like
one.
that? Yeah.
Man, that was a thing. That's really one of the serious things that a lot of people do not realize. A lot of people, man, even some of the people that were over it, doing it is one thing, but having a situation like that and acting at a moment's notice, whether it's to protect yourself, protect other people around you, majority of the time it's protect other people around you, and without hesitation, without thinking about it, man, you just act. There's a lot of people who don't realize, that, and everybody's like, yeah, oh man, I'll do it. You never know. Some people do, man. There has been some people who has frozen, and there's been some individual heroes like him who said, hey, you know what, they didn't even think about it. They just act. You never know what's going to go on at that moment. You just act and do what you have to do,
Yeah, it's humbling to think about that. I think too, it's like you don't realize when you're in. I think there's a combat photographer that 20 years in different conflicts, and he got out and he was really struggling, and he wanted to know what was that pull that made people wish they had stayed in, and or at least looked back at that time as a time that made more sense, even though it was chaos. And I think you get out and you realize that tribal pack mentality doesn't really exist the way it did then. This is the book here. It's called
Tribe. Yeah, good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal.
The book. Hey man, he be on them books, man. Hey.
Yeah.
That's something I always remember, man. Always read, man.
I'm going to ask you about your third tour and then move on to you being an author, bro. Anything that you remember standing out from the third tour there?
I would say number one, the Father's Day Massacre probably would be number one. And the schoolhouse fire. There was a fire where I won't name him. That's his story to tell, but a gentleman was pouring gas into a lit gas lantern, and he was dripping it everywhere, and it enveloped in flames. Everyone ran out of the room. Well, the room had live munitions. Rounds were popping off.
Oh shit!
Everyone had to evacuate that schoolhouse as a fire. But I also remember standing post and running patrols in Fallujah, and I remember being with Henderson on that furthest gate, and I remember I wanted to impress him and tell him about how, because he hadn't been on the furthest post yet, and I wanted to share how to be on the post. Well, unfortunately, we were with this guy Palacio, and Palacio also wanted to impress Henderson and tell him. So we were talking over each other, and then finally I got Palacio to stop, and I just started getting everything out, and I got everything. And Henderson's looking at me, and he's like, I did before. And I was like, I was so concerned with Palacio that I wasn't even really thinking about, well, how is Henderson receiving this information?
Oh,
good
man.
Deal.
Hey, it's the phase, man. It be things like that, man. Hey, you forget about it until somebody bring it up, and you be like, "Oh shit." Hey, man, I was so happy to get back, man. On that third tour, they had me out. What was I doing? Man, I think I went to go train. I went to go train some guys. We did stuff. What we was doing, it was Wasn't really training. It was more like collecting. You know, kind of pulled us away from the unit. You know, to do some other stuff. You know, and then man, when they sent us back, I was like, hell yeah, man, dude, put me back. I'm like, dude, I'm, it was cool what we were doing, but I was like, man, put me back with my guys, man.
Yeah, that was rough. I remember the Father's Day Massacre was a surreal moment. I think just feeling kind of, I know we had missed the brunt of what made Fallujah a very devastating encounter with a lot of people modern era. I had a friend who's 18. She was asking me about my experiences, and I said, do you know about Fallujah? And she goes, no idea. And people don't think about a lot of these older battles that might have been more famous back then. But yeah, I just remember a lot of patrols and a lot of posts, and that one time where it kind of I felt like we got pretty lucky. I know Kilo Company fought a lot more infantry based opposition than we did, because you guys scored higher on those CAX events, I believe. So you guys were more here.
Oh shit, bro. Yeah, yeah, everything you said, bro. But I don't know. I never looked at it as a kilo thing. I always looked at it as 3-4 was just dope as a battalion, bro. Like all of our companies were just, you couldn't put words to us, man. Dark side forever, bro.
Yeah, the Bastard Battalion.
Yeah, yeah. Now, if you don't mind, walk us into your transition into becoming the author. You're an author, bro, and the renowned author that you are.
I really appreciate that. So one of my goals is always to be a writer. And I felt like if I was going to write any story first, it had to be this one. And I decided to, I thought I was going to write all 3 tours, and I thought I was going to paint this wide sweeping picture, but I ended up really focusing on just my first, writing about what led up to and through my first deployment, and also my Vietnam vet uncle's deployment to Vietnam. And I don't have as many chapters about him in there as I would have liked. At the time, I was in this phase where I didn't care how self-destructive it was. I wanted to think about everything and write down everything and go back into every single moment. And my uncle is at a point where he was trying to move
Past
on with
it.
move
Okay.
past, and bringing it up was good for him, but it was also I think a lot. And so and I wasn't really, I hadn't gone on that journey yet of having to deal with, I didn't know I was going to fall apart. So I was going hard to the pain. Why are you being a bitch? Why can't you just talk about this? Like, come on, I need more book, and let's go. Like, give me more information, you know. Why are you procrastinating? Well, it's not, he's not procrastinating. Has other burdens in life that he's on, raising a family, and he just got married, and so things like that. But yeah, I grew up with a lot of support. I grew up with a lot of people around me, but I also grew up in a cult pretty much. And so I grew up with a lot of purity culture and a lot of control on my life, a lot of where they'd shame you for, the community was really based on shaming you for bad thoughts, not allowing you, like making you feel really wrong for wanting to be around girls, things like that. And then going into the Marines where it was like, don't be a bitch, be aggressive, and I felt like when I started writing the book, it was the beginning of me kind of unpacking everything I had pushed down. Now once I finished the book, all the way up until about 2 years ago, I smoked weed every single day, morning to night, and drank. And so not even until about 1.5 years ago did I really go on this sobriety journey that I've been on. But yeah, that was pretty much it, man. Just really focusing on the first deployment. I've thought about talking about the next 2 deployments and writing about my journey, having been out. And because I remember even when I got out of the Marines, I moved in with my aunt on this park reserve. She had just found out she had ALS and that she was going to die in a couple years. And I would like to even write that story because I'm helping her as she's kind of losing her abilities. And the guy that lived above me was a Gulf War vet that lived
Really?
above. I still was somewhat connected to veterans. But do you guys ever connect to American Legion or VFW? Have you guys explored?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, big deal to me. Real big deal. Not just to have a drink either, just to be around the guys, or to be able to talk and relate to the one sector of society that gets us.
Yeah, I've been pretty active in the American Legion. That's been a good experience too. Just connecting with other veterans, not feeling, and it's validating, it's calming, it makes it feel less your warped perspective, our perspective based on what we went through, feels more valid and more real. You're around other people who have had those experiences too.
Exactly.
But yeah, man, and as far as the rest of my writing, I've been working on a science fiction book because I kind of felt like my true passion and what I really wanted to be about was writing a science fiction book that mirrored the American condition and mirrored some of the things we go through in a way that still was much more about the story and not about specific cultural events, but in a way where I could speak about what I went through without having to put so much context in where I have to protect people. Because I feel like with my first book, I really went after the senior Marines that were in charge of me. I hated those guys, and they know that we all hated them, and we and a lot of that, I'll say right now, a lot of the hate towards guys should go away because they were doing the best they could with what they had, but also a lot of what they did was unnecessary. So I still don't feel bad, but I still look back at it and go, after going through everything I did, after writing the book, recovering from not dealing with everything and trying to bottle it up, I got to a point where I realized that those senior guys that did all those things, well, what if they have regrets too? I don't know. I don't talk to them, and
Right.
what if I write the next 2 books about the next 2 tours? Do I really want to just continue to expose people that the rest of us know? And I really don't. I really don't want to. I couldn't write what I did about them again, and I couldn't write about other people because I had experiences with other people in the next 2 tours that were pretty raw. I saw a lot of things where if I put that in there, it could really be like almost shaming people. And I think the key of doing that with the first book was first shame myself, first write about my insecurities, my failures, put in there where I fell, where I was, be critical of myself first before being critical of others. But I don't know if I could write about the second and third deployment without being critical of people that would just be blindsided by me airing out some aspects, my perspective on them at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that. And I don't know if I take on that task.
Right. Now, what's the title? What's the title of your book?
Little Warrior Brother.
And I know this, and I just want to kind of put this out there for other people. But what made you, and this I don't know. What made you pick that title?
So, my uncle, who was a Vietnam vet, lives in Tampa Bay. I hadn't talked to him a lot. He stayed to himself a lot. And when I was near the end of OF1, I got a letter from him with this Native American bracelet he got in a sweat lodge that he sent me, that they'd given him as like as like saying that he is a warrior, and he called me his little warrior brother, and told me that when I was in, keep my head down, but when I got out, make sure to lift my head high. And I didn't understand any of that, and so that was why I called the story Little Warrior Brother, was because of my uncle calling me that in that letter he sent me. Because even though we were fighting at the time, it was hard to know what we were really experiencing, I believe.
Okay. Man, titles become real deep. They can give an insight into a lot of things, that people went through, stuff that they kind of hold on to, that kind of help them, kind of help them push forward, kind of help them live their life, So I just wanted to ask that, man. When you gave me the book, I was thinking about it then. I was like,
I think too, because you're so young. I appreciate that. That's a good point, man. That there was a lot that went into that in my mind. I had the title. It kind of, I came up with this title, and it stuck from the very beginning, because it's also like we were so young. We were 18. I didn't know what it was like to have a real job, except making subs at Cousin Subs and pushing carts at Menards. And then now I'm thrown in, the military combat zone. And I think, like kind of how, when you get out of your childhood and you flip over your childhood and you got to stand on it and you realize, oh, I could have been given more information here. I could have, man, I wasn't really told this or that. Well, I feel like that was the same with what our experiences are. We went in, a lot of us did, so young that we didn't even realize what we were going through at the time, or at least that we were so young experiencing it,
Right.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Great points. Yeah, I couldn't add any more words to it than the way you said it. If you don't mind, can you let everyone know where they can find you on TikTok or anywhere else on social media?
Yeah. So let me see here. I'm pretty sure. Which is
I think we lost your. Okay, there you are.
Oh, there you go. So my TikTok is at the Bloody Nine. They call me. It's the at symbol, the Bloody Nine. They call me, which is a line from a fantasy book, kind of like a Game of Thrones book. And it's this warrior that's one of the things he says. The Bloody Nine, they call me, and it's just it's pretty epic. But either way, that's where you can find me on TikTok, on Facebook. You can find my book on Facebook. Just look up Little Warrior Brother. Purchase it on Amazon.com. If you find me on TikTok, I check that more. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, I connect with a lot of veterans on Facebook. That's what I use that for, is to stay connected to people I won't see every day. And especially with some veterans passing away recently, Layfield passed away recently.
Yeah.
And everyone connecting about him and 2nd Platoon, a lot of them got together and took pictures, and that's where I like to connect with veterans, because people put their lives there a little bit more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Right.
Man, I know you, man, you've had some, and I don't want to pry, I don't want to pry as well. At least out, if you're not willing to, but I know you've gone through some things after getting out of active duty, they kind of bar forth a lot of things, man. Would you mind talking about some of that, anything,
Yeah.
You don't have to, you don't have to, man. That's all your business.
Well, I mean, I've never talked about it publicly, but it'd be an honor to talk to it about with you guys here, knowing your experiences, our common experiences, and it's something I can talk about these days. So when I got out of the Marines, I started to experience a lot of lower back pain, and when I about 8 years after getting out, I had moved to Las Vegas, and my bottom vertebrae had collapsed and squished the fluid there into my spinal column and hardened around my nervous system. So I was experiencing continual, one big continual pinched nerve for years. And I ended up getting let go of my job because they had closed the position I was at in the company I was working, and I was too physically debilitated to get the job again. And so, or to go and get another job at the company. So I had finished publishing Little Warrior Brother. And so I'm going to give you a perfect storm scenario before telling you what happened. Finished publishing Little Warrior Brother, smoking a lot of weed, which for me was just like pouring gasoline on a fire. And I was just repressing what I was dealing with. I ended up getting back surgery through a civilian doctor on Cobra insurance right before my insurance went out. And I just couldn't go back and get another job. And I kept going to the VA, and they kept telling me that there was no proof anything was wrong with me. And I wasn't in a place where I could accept PTSD, and I was telling them, you just need to fix this problem with my back. You need to look at this problem. And they were asking questions that I was not admitting to, like with the PTSD and with, a lot of the mental health stuff I wasn't ready to face. So eventually I went back to the VA a bunch, and they kept saying that there was nothing wrong with me. And eventually I started pushing family and friends away by telling them that I was going to attack a VA hospital. And I was saying really ugly things. And I actually had gotten to this point in my mind where I thought I found a cave on the outskirts of Las Vegas that were blown up former mining caves that didn't go back that far. But I was like, I'll fucking live out here with my 45 and my I don't have any money, but I can hold down this one little cave. And I was saying really ugly things, like if I would talk to a family or friend about, I should totally just shoot up one of these VAs, hold a gun to the head of a doctor, have him tell me to my face with a gun to his head that there's no proof anything's wrong with my back, blah, blah, blah. And so anyways, I did that to my uncle. Well, my uncle called the police. And so one day I was at a restaurant with my friends in Vegas, my roommates, and they got called by the FBI and said, don't go home to your apartment. And so I went home to the apartment restaurant, and my friends all stayed back, and I parked my car and I got out, and I had seen these four gentlemen looking at something on a hood, like a map. And when I pulled it was one of those big gated Vegas apartment style areas. So there's cars everywhere. I parked and I got out and looked at them, and they looked up at me, and they start walking towards me, and they go, Gabriel Keith? And I go, yeah. And then I look, and there's a guy with a rifle trained in on my head. And all of a sudden I'm surrounded by the FBI and police department, because this was 10 days after the Vegas shooting in Vegas. And so tensions were really high. And I remember they said that they had known that one FBI agent said he knew that my back was really bad. He had talked to my mom, and as long as I go peacefully, they won't be forced to use force. And they dropped, and so I was like, did the whole like, hey, I'm not going to resist. I set down my stuff and did that. They pretty much, they got me handcuffed, got me in front of a squad car with the FBI and the police all around me. And the FBI agents found my book in the back of my car, and they're like, you're one of us, man. Why would you say these things? Why would you do this? You're supposed to be one of us. And I remember the FBI guy said, he put a letter down in front of me on the hood, and he said, if you sign this, it's admitting to making terrorist statements, and we're going to go in and take your gun, and it's allowing us permission to, you're waiving your rights, you're admitting to making domestic terrorist threats. We're going to take your gun, and I'm going to drive you to the psych ward. And I don't know if you're going to go to prison, but I'm going to stand up for you. I'll be there every step of the way in whatever capacity I can. Now, if you don't sign this, I'm going to walk away and the police is going to take you. And that's it for you. And there's more nuances to the story. Like, I signed it. I remember driving to the psych ward, looking up at signs that were in Vegas talking about how we're strong and in the face of terrorism, and feeling horrified by what I had said, horrified that it had come to this point. Because at the time I wasn't sleeping. I was having nightmares that would wake me up the moment I shut my eyes. And I was just in a really rough state. So I wouldn't let my mom come see me at the hospital because I was just ashamed. And eventually I did. My mom actually eventually been going around and getting all my friends benefits. She's been fighting for all my friends in my platoon. And so that's a piece that has been powerful. Just my mom really saving my life. And the FBI agent, when they released me from the psych ward, the police showed up to escort me off premises. And the FBI agent showed up. And he had said before, he's like, I'm going to go to court on your behalf, but you might have to face prison. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'll go to prison. I don't give a shit. And he's like, no, yeah. You say that, man, but you don't mean that. You don't know what you're talking about. And so I ended up not having to go to prison. The day I'm out of the psych ward, the police are there, and the FBI agent shows up and says, yeah, you guys get the fuck out of here. And then he's like, I'm not going to have you walk out like you were a prisoner. You're going to walk out with your head high. I want you to walk out knowing that, you deserve to, that this wasn't your fault. And even though it's very important to take responsibility, like the threats I was making, I did have at the time this idea, okay, I did tell myself, maybe I won't hurt anybody, but I will shoot at the outside of these VA buildings. And then what I'll do is I'll shoot at the out, because I had started hearing reports of veterans who were going to the VA parking lots and committing suicide in the parking lots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That started to wrench at my heart to the point where I didn't trust or care about anybody that was a civilian. I just thought, we've all been fighting this other war alone, and it's just bullshit. And you know how polarizing politics are. Well, at the time, politically, everyone's throwing pain of one issue and one group at the other group, or at least my mind was not dealing well with a lot of the political banter as well. So they kicked me out of Vegas asked me to leave Vegas. The police did for 60 days, something like that. And I left, came back 8 months later, tried to live on my own, went back to the psych ward, and then moved back to Minnesota for good. And I've been back ever since. And I didn't really reach out to veterans or veteran groups, or I felt ashamed.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, there's a lot of shame. I had a lot of unpacking that to do. And I also didn't realize I was going to fall apart. I didn't realize how far down I was going to go. And so I worked with the VA, got my benefits going, and just rebuilt my process, realized, I'm one of those veterans that can't touch alcohol or weed. I just can't do it. And I can have it around me because other people can do it. And if it's good for them, I'm happy if they're happy. And yeah, ever since I published that book, I've just been putting the pieces back together and going in a better direction and feeling better. I felt like I went from my 20s, where I was just determined to walk through brick walls, hitting the wall in my 30s, and then now, like, turning 40. My goal is to, find the better path forward, and then that has kind of translated to connecting with other veterans and at the American Legion.
Yeah.
Trying to face my pain and let
Oh, you're on mute right now. You're on mute right now.
Gabe, we lost.
Yeah, we can't hear you right now. Let me see. Yeah, we can't.
You there?
Okay, he can hear us, but yeah, we can't hear you.
Try to exit the screen and come back in. Exit the show and come back in. Let me see if I can do it.
All right, let me see.
I don't know if I'm back at all.
Yeah, there we go. There you go.
All right, we got you. We got you, Gabe. We got you. Can you hear us?
Say something.
Yeah, we got you, Gabe. All right, let me try it again then. You there? Gabe, you there?
I'm messaging him now.
All right.
I think he's jumping out and back on.
Cool.
All right.
We got you.
Yeah, so that was pretty much that. I mean, of course, I could go into
right.
detail after detail, but I think that pretty much summed up what.
No. Yeah, that's good. That's good, man. Nah. Hey, man, I appreciate you telling that, man. I think a story like that deserves to be told. Man, I'm glad you did. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but man, hey, I'm proud, man. I'm proud of you for what you overcame. From where you
damn
at now.
right, you damn right, man, bro.
You did a lot, man. You did a lot, and it's crazy. It's crazy that you had to deal with it. And there's been veterans, that we both know, that we all know that dealt with similar stuff. But one thing kind of stuck out to me was the FBI agent who said, "Hey, we're brothers, so why would you do this?" Some don't know. It's a shame that it had to happen, but in order to be heard, just having to, it's a mountain. There's a mountain on your back, feeling like you have to go to the extremes in order to have your point felt. And that's what it is. You're basically screaming for help because you're trying to get your point felt. People can hear your point. There's a difference in someone hearing you and feeling you. You're going through so much pain, that you had to do that, in order to get them to understand, this type of pain I'm going through. I don't really know how to communicate this, but I know that I'm frustrated and I'm going through a lot. I'm in pain and I need help. And the VA has been notoriously bad, at listening. Whether it was lesser issues or greater issues, they have notoriously been bad at listening. A lot of people are. And us as combat veterans are just now, getting to the point to where we're able to, to put the pieces together, and to speak on it. And there's veterans that we both know that we all know who are still struggling with it. They're still going through pain. They're still reaching out, trying to figure out how to communicate this. And, I think, the more veterans kind of hold back and be like, man, I'm fine. I went through stuff. The harder it is, for other veterans to kind of put that out there and be like, yo, I need help, and I've always looked at you as like, man, hey, all them books and stuff, he used to read and, kind of follow along that path. It's having something that you can kind of hold on to, if you can pick that up. And that's the thing about being, trained, and our mindset to be strong, that eventually, if we can find that path, we can get on that path and we can kind of move forward. It's been the same thing with Master Sergeant WarDawg, man, we got out, we kept in contact. There's a lot of things he was going through. We talked, we call each other, man, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, we had a situation going on. And the same thing, man. When he started his podcast and stuff like that, and I kind of saw it, even though there was a time that me and Sergeant WarDawg stopped talking for a period of time, and it was not on good terms. It was not on good terms, and but I linked back in, and I kind of saw some of the things he was doing, and I'm like, man, I'm like, man, how's everything? How's everything going with? Eventually, we found out that we live like less than 10 minutes away from each other.
Wow.
And seeing a podcast, and a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people probably look, at a lot of the podcasts and some of the things he's doing, be like, they don't get, man, hey, hunting hogs, this podcast, man, he's done a complete 180. And stuff like that, man, and your story, I just, man, hey, but I'm glad you was able to tell it. And I'm definitely glad that you were able to rebound from that, and hey, man, I'm looking forward to all the other books you write, man. So hey, I'm buying all of them. So hey, keep writing them. Hey, keep doing what you're doing, man. I'm proud of you, though.
That means a lot, man. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate being a part of this. This has meant a lot to me. It really has. It's an honor for you guys to speak just so kindly to me, and just, it's humbling, because I especially understand, I served with you. I know the type of Marine you were, and I always looked up to you in a sense, what way you carried yourself. So that really, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem, man. That means a lot.
Yeah, Gabe, you really bounced back, bro. I mean, you bounced back seriously, man. I'm telling you, I salute you for everything, man. Seriously, bro. I got to let you know that. But I really appreciate you taking all the time out of your busy schedule that you did for us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 118 of the WarDawg Trail podcast. We had Marine Infantry war veteran Gabe Keith. He's also an author. Ladies and gentlemen, episode 118. Gabe, thanks again, bro. Have a good evening.
Thank you, brother. You as well.
All right.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, episode 118.